Are you thinking, where can I find all the information when it comes to tax planning, retirement planning, annuities, all of these things? Well, we have talked about them throughout the year on our many different episodes that we've put out. And in this particular recording, you'll see I have Morgan with me and Merce, and we go through where to find them. And we tell you all the episodes so you know exactly how to do it. Because here's our goal. We want you to live to and through retirement without having to worry. We want you to have peace of mind. We want it to be secure. So make sure you listen to this episode because that's the goal.
To learn more about how to secure your retirement and all the different elements you need to know, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you'll be notified when we release episodes every Monday. We have helped hundreds of our clients gain clarity and get on the path to a great retirement. Now it's your turn. Let's dive in.
We are excited to have you with us today for our we're going to maybe have another name, but we're going to call it our wind down still. But let me just tell you, there's a lot of value that you're going to get in this episode. We're going to cover some topics that have been super popular throughout the year. This is our last wind down for 2022. So you're listening to this on the last week of the year, and we wanted to be able to provide you some resources. So when it comes to taxes, retirement planning, annuities, where is it that you can go and find these really, really quick for what we did in 2022? If you think about it, we have put hours and hours of material out there, and we want to make sure that you can just go find what you might be looking for. There will be a blog article written on this, so you'll have all this in a written form as well. But Morgan, before we get into that stuff, could you kind of explain what's different about our wind down?
Yes, today we are drinking Welch's Finest from the apple orchards of Maine. It's very fruit forward, I would say almost apple forward with some effervescence. It is sparkling non-alcoholic cider. So we are venturing on a challenge called 75 Hard. So for 75 days, we are not drinking alcohol. We're working out 2 45-minute sessions a day, drinking a gallon of water, a bunch of other fun stuff. But this is part of our challenge and we're sticking to it. So we will have 2 wind downs that will not involve actual wine.
Sparkling cider, by the way, is basically apple juice, but we're adults, so we call it sparkling cider.
And we put it in these fancy glasses.
Yeah, so these two are doing this pretty difficult challenge and me being the good coworker and good friend that I am, I'm also gonna have sparkling cider with them today on this wind down.
So supportive.
All right, Morgan, can you kind of lay out for us, give us an outline of our questions, and then let's get started.
Yeah, we're going to cover 3 of main topics that we've covered throughout the year. The first one being, what are the best resources for taxes? What did we explain about retirement planning throughout the year in our podcasts? And then also, what if I need to understand more about annuities has been a popular question.
All right, let's start our first one.
All right, Merce, what are the best resources for taxes? Which podcast?
So we have a whole list of them. And we did something like this last year too. At the end of last year, it ended up being a nice little table of contents or a good little reference guide for everyone. And we got really good feedback on it. So that's kind of what we're doing today again. But I'll start off with episode 185. So pretty recent. We did a interview with Stephen Jarvis, who is a CPA that's been on our podcast a few different times. His whole concept is really around year-round tax planning, proactive tax planning, and not just waiting until it's time to file your tax return in April. And so he goes over some concepts around things that you want to be thinking about when it comes to the end of the year. Things like donor advised funds, Roth conversions, making sure you've taken your RMDs if you're in RMD age. Also, the what goes hand in hand with that is qualified charitable distributions that can help out your tax situation. So really, really good episode, kind of laying out some of that. And as we approach here at the end of 2022, while we're talking 2022 strategies, a lot of those apply year by year. Just the numbers move a little bit. So really good episode to get you thinking about what you should be doing tax-wise there.
Since you're talking about Stephen Jarvis, you want to go ahead and hit up his mid-year one as well, just to kind of tie those together?
Yeah, the mid-year one was episode 163. And again, similar concept that we discussed there. That was much more heavier around this idea of do I need to do a Roth conversion? We get that question all the time. And the answer is not always yes, but the answer is yes to the question of, should I consider a Roth conversion? We think everyone should consider, and he kind of lays out things that he's looking for when he's advising his clients as far as what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, and expectations around the reasoning behind a Roth conversion. And there's a bunch of other nice little tax pieces in there, but that was the bulk of that episode 163.
All right. So I'm going to cover a couple of episodes, episode 184 and 158. 184 was called Tax Planning Should Be a Part of My Retirement Plan. And then episode 158 was Tax Planning versus Tax Preparation. All of those are around this idea of to stop thinking about things from a financial plan and then also over here a tax plan. Those two things really need to be tied together. And so in those two episodes, we talk a lot about this idea of how connected they are. So no matter what your situation is and what you might be doing, make sure that your financial advisor and your CPA or your tax preparer are working together. They should not be like, I'm going and meeting with my tax guy or person, and I'm meeting with my financial advisor, and they're telling me two different things, or they're telling me things individually. They should be working together as a team. Here at Peace of Mind Wealth Management, Merce and I are very, very big about that. And so we have some CPAs that we do work with our clients, but we are connected throughout the entire process. So when we email the CPA or the CPA emails the client, we are completely connected. Everybody knows exactly what's going on, because taxes could affect your retirement plan as big as a downturn in the market. So don't allow those two major parts of your plan not be connected. And that's the main issue. So episode 140, 184 and 158.
And then, sorry.
I was just going to throw in the last one, which I think is really good, that I want to highlight before we leave the best podcast episodes around taxes, is episode 161. And it's all around required minimum distributions and qualified charitable distributions. Two acronyms there, RMDs and QCDs. If you're above the age 70 and a half, which is where you could qualify for qualified charitable distributions, or you're 72, which is the RMD age, you really want to take a look at this episode as you're approaching those ages and understand the strategies around them, understand the requirements around them and the rules around them, because there are penalties if we mess those up. Essentially, the government, because we have put a lot of money into tax deferred accounts like IRAs and 401ks, once you hit a certain age, 72 and onwards, you're required to start drawing on them. So we go deep dive into how that works and things you want to think about there. So that's it for taxes. Episode 185, 84, 163, 161, and 158, all really good listens.
It was one episode 184. You didn't say you said 84.
Oh, I did.
184. 184.
Don't go that far back. All right. And then we had a lot about retirement planning. What are some of the things that we explained around that?
Yeah. So one of the episodes that I kind of look back at and think was super powerful is episode 182, which was called 3 Questions to Ask Yourself About Retirement. And this was not really about the financial side of things. We covered topics like, what do I want to do in retirement? Merce and I, as we work with individuals, a lot of the people that come and work with us are about 5 to 10 years out from retirement. They're planning for it, and then they go into retirement. So a good, fun part of what we do is we get to be there when that person says, guess what I just did? I just gave in my notice and I am retiring on this date, whatever that date might be. And we get to see that excitement. It's exciting. We're all happy. And then we get to meet with them 6 months later and a year later. And I go, how was it? And they go, it was great. But now I need to know what else I'm going to do. I've kind of done all the little projects around the house. We traveled a little bit. I got to have something to do. And so we talk about that, how to think that through, how to plan about those types of things. So I think that's a really, really great episode.
Yeah, another really good one around retirement planning is episode 180. And that one circled around the Federal Reserve and inflation. And, you know, we've been getting questions like this all year, really, around inflation and what the Fed is doing. And the episode is not saying that we have any answers. The episode is kind of really walking through questions that we get. So one is, you know, the cost of living is going up. We're feeling it at the gas pump. We're feeling it at the grocery stores in particular. And how do we navigate this as we approach retirement, as we live through retirement, and what are the things that we do? As you know, how we talk about a retirement plan, it must be actively managed, just like we believe your investments should be. And so what is nice about that is nothing is set in stone. The plan that we write today is going to change, and we know it's going to change, and we want to monitor that actively. And so that's what that episode is all about, being able to navigate situations like high inflation or low returns in the market, or really anything that you can think of. Our plans work really well, and they're nimble enough to do that. So a good listen there, and you'll learn a lot.
All right. Mine is going to be episode 177. This one became a big topic of conversation and is growing. It's all about IRMA. And if you're trying to spell IRMA, it's IRMAA. And that's an abbreviation or a way to explain this idea around our Medicare Part B and D surcharges that we could have if we're making too much money when we take Medicare. It's really, really important. In fact, in this episode, we talked about how those different tiers worked. I will tell you, we're going to be doing another episode in 2023 to update the numbers. I also will tell you, last year we came out and we had a flow chart that kind of was a checklist to help you think through all of the 2022 numbers. Well, now we have a 2023 flow chart that has been updated. We are going to be sending that out to all of our clients and individuals that are a part of our world in our January newsletter. We'll have that as an insert in there. But if you don't get that and you want that, let us know, and you can call the office, ask for Morgan or Laura, and they'll be able to send you out a PDF of that 2023 IRMA flow chart. It just kind of helps you know all those numbers because it can get really massive if we don't do some planning.
Episode 157 was really good. It was all about the retirement bucket strategy. We talk to our clients about this all the time, and all of our clients have some version of this when it comes to their overall investment strategy. And on a high level, and the episode goes into it in much more detail, but on a high level, the way this works is that we've come up with buckets that are going to help things, for one, make things simple when it comes to understanding your investment strategy. And two, it makes things work really nicely together. So basically, there's 3 buckets: a cash bucket, income and safety bucket, and then a growth bucket. The cash is basically money at the bank that you would essentially call your emergency fund, or money that you want to be able to get your hands on very quickly and easily. We don't want to overfill that bucket, but we also want to be comfortable. The safety and income bucket is there to do exactly what it says: provide safety and serve as a offset of market risk. So it's not correlated to the stock market. And it also has the ability to provide us with the income that we're going to need throughout retirement. The beauty of this bucket is that it's not correlated to the market. So take a year like 2022, when the stock market has been down as much as 25%. We're not worried about that. Everyone's always worried about losing money, but we're not worried about that in this bucket, because this bucket cannot lose money, and it's going to be able to provide us the income. Because a lot of times when we're down 20 and 25%, that is the worst time to be drawing on an asset. And so not having to do that, utilizing the safety and income bucket instead works very well for the plan, which now allows bucket number 3 to do its job, which is the growth bucket. The growth bucket is there for growth. It's a stock market type of investment. It's going to have volatility. It's going to have risk to it. But ideally, it's going to have the best rate of return over time. And the only way it can have the best rate of return is if we're not bugging it every single month for a monthly withdrawal. And so you put those 3 buckets together, and we believe that turns into a very sound investment strategy. And like I said, all of our clients utilize it in some way, shape, or form. So if you're really interested in how we do that, obviously the episode is going to give you a lot as well. We're happy to hop on the phone with you and understand it more.
All right, the final one for this section is episode 146, which really kind of goes to that growth bucket that Merce was just talking about, and that is having a risk-adjusted portfolio. You can do that a couple different ways, but the way we do that is we do it really based on your view of how much money, in all essence, if you lost a certain amount of money, at what point would you start losing sleep? And that's going to be different for every person. But no matter what that is, we need to have a portfolio designed to meet that threshold. And we walk you through that. If that's ever a discussion you want to have, like Merce said, we're glad to hop on the phone and have a call with you to go through that.
All right. And then the final section is around annuities. What if you need to learn more or understand more about annuities? What would you do?
So one of my favorites was episode 153. We titled this Bonds versus Bond Alternatives. And the picture I want to just lay out for you here to look at is, traditionally the investment strategy that has worked for a retiree is a very common phrase. One is a 60-40 portfolio, 60% equity, 40% bonds. The only reason anyone ever really puts money into bonds is to have safety when the equity side of the market has issues. So if you have a market that is crumbling, typically, the 40% is going to protect you in some way, shape, or form. That's what bonds are supposed to do. And that's what everyone believes, that they're safe. Well, enter in a rising interest rate environment, enter in inflation and what the Fed has been doing over the last year, and bonds, what are supposed to be safe for us and provide us that level of protection, have not done that at all. The AGG, which is aggregate bond index, kind of like the S&P, but the bond side of that world, the AGG has been down as much as 15% in 2022, which is a number that is unheard of. And so what I'm getting at here is bonds are not providing the protection that they used to. And so there has to be some type of pivot or some type of change in strategy and thinking. And that really comes into now the bond alternative conversation, that all of our clients have had this conversation. They understand the concept and it works really well for a lot of reasons. But the most effective is that it works to offset the risk of the equity markets, the stock market, and better than bonds are going to do. Why? Because fixed index annuities, they have the ability to provide some guarantees that the market cannot. The biggest guarantee it provides is that it cannot lose your principal. So you put in $100,000, it cannot lose that, guaranteed by the insurance company. And so that is, in all essence, what a bond alternative is in our eyes. It's going to make a bond-like return, and it's not going to have the risk of what a bond does have today and is going to have for quite some time. So really good episode. If you're worried about how your bond portfolio has acted this year and last year and for the years to come, definitely take a look at that. And again, that's a big conversation that we should be having.
All right. Our final episode that we'll remind you of is a recent one called It's 187, and we titled it Fixed Annuities, Best Rates in Over a Decade. I've been using fixed annuities of some format now for over 15 years, and I'm going to tell you the rates we have right now are the best rates we've had that entire time. Why? Well, we go back 15 years, we've had low interest rates, lowering interest rates, zero interest rates, hardly any money that could be out there to be earned. And that made the environment of the annuities tougher, still pretty good. I mean, still very decent returns, but now we are in an interest rate climbing rate. So it has made the returns or potential returns on these fixed index annuities and fixed annuities, the plain fixed annuities, much, much better. And so if you have ever been hesitant about looking at them, I think now, if you ever are thinking about considering it, now is the best time to ever consider them in over a decade. So make sure you listen to that episode as we go through that a little bit. It's not a very long episode, but it'll definitely help you get your thoughts together. Anyway, well, that's it. We wanted to kind of recap some of those resources again. I want to remind you, all of this is going to be in a blog article on our website, pomwealth.net. Go to the blog page. You'll see the recap there. Certainly, we have had a fun 2022 with the podcast. It's been great to be able to share this with you. The markets and the world has given us a little bit of issue, but ultimately, we're all still here. Everybody's still being able to have a good retirement plan. That's our focus. And we will talk to you next year. We hope this video has given you some confidence and clarity as you plan for a worry-free life in retirement. But what else do you need? We have created a complimentary video course called 3 Keys to Secure Your Retirement. This video walks you through step-by-step what you need to do to get ready for retirement. You can also check out our podcast called Secure Your Retirement. You can subscribe below.
For more retirement tips, check out these videos. Also, if you find them valuable, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a like.